Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever the fuck you're tuning in. This is another episode of Tailgate Trash Talk brought to you by Backyard Sports. I got Bentley Danger with me, and he's not happy about Clayton White. But other than that, man, how you doing?
Well, my favorite coach in the country has a broken foot right now because he kicked something, quote, that should not have been kicked after giving up a 4th and 11 and a 4th and 9 on a go-ahead touchdown drive late in the fourth quarter by Florida. And America's favorite coach, Deion Sanders, only has 18. Nope, I lied. He has
18 appendages.
Yeah, he's
But
18 appendages, dude. So, whichever way you do it, I'm doing better than both of them this week.
yeah, boy, yeah, it's tough, man. I watch Ron or Jack Del Rio do it week in and fucking week out on 3rd and 4th and long. We are the worst. So I know your pain. I sympathize with your pain. It is not fun, especially in a game that you guys had a chance to win against a rival. It's a mess. It's a mess.
Can I just go off just before we get to the week's games?
Absolutely.
There are 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. We're up 10. We block a field goal. Block a field goal. We all the momentum in the world. All the momentum in the world. And we can't close the game out. It's unbelievable how freaking bad. We are ranked 130th out of 130 qualifying FBS teams in passing defense. That's an SEC defense, right? Yeah. We have Nick Emanwari is a projected first 2-day NFL draft pick, right? Potentially first round draft pick playing corner. We have Tonka Hemingway, just by name alone, the dude's a stud. Right. He's going to play in the NFL. The linebacker named Stone Blanton. We have dudes on this defense.
Yeah.
And we give up a 4th and 11 on a throw that went 2 yards in front of the line of scrimmage and had 3 guys miss a tackle. What do you do? What do you do with that? I don't understand how we're so freaking bad. Earlier in the year, it was our run defense. We shored that up. We held Florida to 2.2 yards per carry this weekend. And now we just can't block. We can't stop the passing offense. Graham Mertz, who's played for 3 different colleges, had a career high in passing yards. He passed for almost 400 yards on the road in what some people will call one of the 10, wherever you want to rank it, one of the most hostile environments in college football today. It's unfreaking fathomable how bad this defense is. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I was going to make that kind of salt in the wound point, right? That it's one, Florida's strength is its run game, and you held them to 2.2 yards, and it's Graham Mertz, who I don't know if anybody out there is aware, but it's 7:05 p.m. on the East Coast, and Graham Mertz is still a bad quarterback.
Yep.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow. I don't get it either because you guys do have dudes on that defense. It's something about coach them up, or it's something about coverage concepts or something. It looks really disconnected on the back end. And, yeah, Tonka Hemingway is all-time, all-name team.
Oh, yeah. Love that dude. Loved it. He's a stud, too. That guy's really good.
Yes.
He's very good. He got off to a slow start. I mentioned we couldn't stop the run earlier in the season, but he and them boys up front have been disruptive recently.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now that we've gotten that Band-Aid torn off and sympathized and commiserated over what should be a much better South Carolina team, let's get into Week 7, man.
Yep.
Talk to me about what game you want to highlight right out the gates here. We're going to save Oregon-Washington for last.
All right.
So talk to me about another game you want to highlight here from this week.
Well, so it's not a game that's listed here on our slick sheet, right?
We love going off the board, man.
We left one off the board, and this is because they played it on Friday and they didn't play it on Saturday.
Yep.
And I was like, "Oh, perfect! I'll get to go to bed early Friday night. I'm not going to have to sweat anything."
I did, and I had the over in a parlay and cashed out the parlay, which would have missed out another one. And I had minus 28. Thought that bitch was in the bag when I went to bed at halftime. I cashed out at halftime after Mata missed that field goal when it was 29-0. And I was like, fuck, we got no chance of getting here now because they're going to squat and Stanford's fucking dead in the water. So yes, I was one of those that went to bed early and woke up to weirdness.
Yeah.
Yes.
We, of course, are talking about the Colorado and Stanford game. The coach who somehow has a better defense than South Carolina went into the locker room, Deion Sanders, and his son was posting links on his Instagram to buy his merch at halftime because they're up 29-0. Then they freaking come out in the second half and get boat raced by a bad Stanford team. They are not good. That is a bad team. But I have to give a shout out to Elik Ayo Manor. I heard his name a lot. I should know how to say it.
Yeah.
Ayo Manor. That dude balled, man. I have his number right here. I lost it for a second. Hold on, I'll tell you. 13 for 294 and 3 tugs.
Nearly 3 bills, bro.
Like, including the go-ahead where he caught the ball behind the defender and drug him 6 yards in the end
Not
zone.
just any defender. Travis
True.
Hunter.
Travis Hunter. Yeah.
Just around Travis Hunter to catch that ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a crazy game. I had to go back and catch the highlights, and I have with YouTube TV. Shameless plug here. You can go back and like catch highlights of games that you had because of the unlimited DVR stuff. So
yeah,
I went back and kind of quickly breezed through that second. It was like you flip the switch and flip the script, and like Colorado came out and was like, yeah, this game's over. We're just gonna go through the motions. And Stanford was like, not so fast. Not so
fast, my friend.
Yeah, that's a disappointing one. One, selfishly, that kills my 8 because I don't see them stealing 2 games against the cream of the crop of the Pac-12. I needed that Stanford game for them to get to the 8 wins I thought they would.
Yeah.
Also, like, that's a really, really bad loss from like a program building, program hyping perspective. You can't blow a 29-point lead and go look a recruit in the eye, right? That's tough. You're going to have a hard, long conversation with your team, but also like you're on the recruiting trail right now. For a program that killed it this past offseason in the transfer portal and needs to build with recruits here coming up, that's a tough one to swallow.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah. What else you got for me, man?
So we obviously have to talk about Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
He threw for less than 200 yards and 3 interceptions against the Notre Dame defense that was kind of shocked by the Louisville offense last week. Now, it was almost an exact script flip from the Louisville Notre Dame game to the SC Notre Dame game, right? Yeah. In the Louisville game, Notre Dame was the one that was turning the ball over, and the defense was put on short fields. Their defense is better than the SC defense. Yeah. And SC was the one turning the ball over and getting put in the short fields. And they lost by 28. Like, that's tough, man. And there were a bunch of memes coming out this week about how Brent Venable, that guy at Oklahoma was, he was sitting pretty high on the hog there at Oklahoma after coming off the Red River. They're ranked very highly. I think they're up to 6 this week or 5 this week, whatever it is. Yeah. And Lincoln Riley is having the same freaking issues that he had at Oklahoma, where they can't stop a nosebleed, dude. Like, they're so bad on defense. Sam Hartman, who had 3 turnovers the week prior, looked like a freaking Heisman winner. Like, it was crazy how bad that SC team was. It took everybody by surprise. Now, I will say a slight saving grace is that you kind of have to hope that this is a fluke performance for Caleb Williams. He does these things in these games where it's like 50-50 balls, right? It's either going to be a super big highlight or it's going to be like, man, this guy doesn't know how to rely on his mechanics. Like he throws, and I heard it was Tom McShay talking about it earlier, right? Who obviously knows much more about the mechanics of the position than I do or whatever, right? But I can see these things watching the games, right? Caleb Williams throws a lot of balls with his feet parallel to the line of scrimmage rather than he does perpendicular, which is where you get that hip drive, you push off the back foot, rather than just relying on arm talent and flicking it. And he did that so many times in this Notre Dame game when he just didn't really need to. It was very shocking.
Yeah, for sure. And you see guys that kind of get away with that stuff, but it's everything. Mahomes does a lot of that kind of shortstop throw with his hips and feet kind of parallel to the line of scrimmage. Rodgers has gotten away with it a lot. But what they have is everything is in a chain, right?
Yeah.
It's shoulders to the hips to the feet. Everything is in a chain. And it's a matter of just getting the arm angle to make that throw. And that's something that, like, we learned in baseball, right? When you're playing baseball, you kind of learn, like, getting your hips and your feet situated. As long as you've got a good base under you, you can do some things, right? And as athletic as he is, right, he's probably always just gotten away with it, right? He doesn't have to because he's a fucking freak.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get away with it against these good defenses. And we have seen him struggle against better defenses both last year and this year. He didn't have a game like this. Obviously, it's a career high in picks, but it was ugly. He looked very pedestrian in this game. And if I'm an NFL GM, I'm watching the rest of the season for one to, like you said, right? Is this a blip on the radar, or is this something I'm going to have to work with him on? How easy is it to fix these sorts of mechanical issues? Because it's not easy to break old habits. I picked Notre Dame to cover because I thought they were going to win the game because I trusted the defense. I trusted a bounce back from getting embarrassed at Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a bit of a gut feeling. It's a rivalry game. They were home and all that. Like, all those things kind of added up, and I took it. I expected them to win by like 4. I didn't expect them to win by 4 scores.
Yeah.
So what a performance by Notre Dame, hands down. This is really bad from Caleb, and he's going to have to bounce back. I mean, he's what, like 4th, I think, right now in a lot of people's kind of Heisman rack 'em and stack 'em. I know he's 3rd overall, I believe, in Vegas odds right now.
Right.
But he's like 4th in a lot of the experts that I've seen like ranking today. I looked at a few lists. He dropped all the way from 1st or 2nd, which he was head-to-head with Penix last week. Coming into this week, he's down to like 4th on a lot of lists that I saw today. So really devastating performance for him. One, it's hard to win back-to-back Heismans to begin with. But this one really hurts. He's going to have to bounce back this week. And they don't have a lot of cupcakes, ahead on the schedule. They've got some tough games left in conference. This was one that, for their playoff hopes, this was one that they really couldn't afford to lose.
Yeah. Big, in basketball terms, this was a quad 1 victory.
Yeah.
Quad 1 loss.
Quad 1 loss, quad 1 victory for Notre Dame.
But if you're ranking it the college basketball side, that's a quad 1 opponent.
Yep, absolutely. What else, bud?
So I'm glad that you mentioned Heisman, and obviously we'll talk about Penix and Washington in a little bit. But another Heisman probably front runner going into the week, and I think probably did more for his stock than anyone outside of Penix this weekend is Drake May and that North Carolina team, who, you're down at halftime, 17-14, and then they come out and they put up 21 in the third quarter. And I know Drake May didn't have to do a whole lot, right? But the Heisman is very narrative based, right? So they're 6-0, they're 3-0 in conference. They just beat a top 25 team in a big night game at home. Now the running back did go for 197 and a touchdown, but since getting Tez Walker back, Drake May has looked like a different quarterback. And he already was projected. Some people were saying he's going to be the number 1 pick above Caleb Williams because of all the things that we talked about, the mechanics and bad habits or whatever. And Drake May is a little more prototypical for the NFL. Like, I've seen a lot of comparisons to Justin Herbert and kind of that prototype, right?
Yep.
But Drake May leading this team to 6-0 and doing it in the way that he is doing it, like I mentioned, since he's gotten Tez Walker back, he's just been lighting up the scoreboard and throwing the ball to that guy a lot because he's very freaking good. And am I glad they didn't have him week 1 because South Carolina would have gotten trounced, in my opinion.
Yeah, with the way that pass defense is playing.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been very, very bad. But I was very impressed by North Carolina. I love what they're doing, and that's very tough for me to say as a Duke fan, right? I historically very strongly against North Carolina, but I did have a ticket with their name on it this weekend, so I'm glad I was able to cash that. They also, if you want to count Clemson as a tough opponent, they have to go to Clemson on November 18th, but they get Duke at home on November 11th. We're not really sure what the status of the quarterback is going to be at that point.
Yeah.
But those are really their only 2 tough games going down the road.
Until the ACC championship.
Right, till the ACC championship.
Yep.
And I obviously never want to skip ahead in the football season. I don't want to miss weeks, right?
Yeah.
But boy, I cannot wait to watch that Florida State North Carolina game. Oh my.
Yeah, that could be a fucking barn burner for sure.
Yes, give me all of that.
Yeah, you mentioned the draft stock, right? And I'm gonna use a term that Ryan likes to use on buckets, right? Variability. And what NFL GMs love but don't love is variability with first round picks, right? They love the ceiling. You want to point to the ceiling. If that's all you're looking for is that, Caleb Williams, hands down, he's the guy that could be the fucking meteor at the next level, right? He's got all the skills. He's got all the arm talent. Seems to be a really intelligent, savvy football player. But the downs can be down because of those mechanical issues, right? So you're talking variability. I would say that for me, the way I look at it with Drake May, and I know that I have said that like he's the best quarterback. At one point, I said he's the best quarterback in this draft, not named Caleb Williams. I also do think strongly that he has the safest stock in terms of success at the next level between those two, right? I look at Caleb Williams and I say he could be fucking unbelievable. He could be your franchise. He could be Mahomes, right? Potentially he could be Mahomes, or he could be, I don't know, name your athletic guy that fell apart, right? In the NFL, there's a fucking trillion of them that played quarterback and never really made it because they couldn't figure out the next level defenses. Drake May, for me, the way I watch him play, he seems to diagnose defenses really, really quickly, gets the ball out, gets it in his playmaker's hands, in position to succeed, doesn't put him in danger, which is something at the next level that's very important. And I look at all that and I say, like, he feels very safe. So the Bears probably end up with Caleb Williams at 1 because it's probably the right pick if you're really looking at the opportunity to draft who could be the best quarterback for the next 15 years, right? And could be one of the best all time if all of his talent comes together at the next level. But if I'm at number 2, right, if the Bears don't have the top 2, or if I'm looking to trade into number 2 and I need a quarterback, I'm not mad that I end up with Drake May because I think he's a very safe NFL quarterback. I think he's going to have a very good career. I think he could be in the elite category in the NFL, and that's always like a group of 3, maybe 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. I think Drake May has that potential at the next level. He just doesn't have the ceiling that's up in the stratosphere like Caleb Williams does.
Right.
I don't know if you look at it similarly, differently, but that's kind of how I look at it. And I think that's how you mentioned some of these other folks that maybe even put Drake May above Caleb. They may be looking at it from the safe angle of he feels like a sure thing, whereas Caleb feels like a guy who could be unbelievable or could be a headache.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about kind of, we say this all the time in the NFL draft. It's all about where you land, right? It's all about how you're able to adapt to the coaching system that's put in place around you and learn from those coaches. And I I don't think we've seen anything from Caleb Williams so far personally that shows that he is not able to take coaching and make changes based on what he's seeing on the field and what his coaches are telling him in his ear. I still would go Caleb Williams 1 overall. I've said that all year long, and I'm going to stick with that. But I understand, to your point, why some people might say that Drake Williams is the correct pick.
Yeah,
right?
We got a troll in the comments.
Zero roof. Interesting. Well, as one great philosopher who went to the school of North Carolina at Chapel Hill said, the ceiling is the roof.
Ceiling is the roof.
And Jim Irsay likes to open up the roof in Indianapolis. So, like, if the ceiling is the roof, technically, if it's open, who knows, man? Like, if Caleb Williams gets drafted to a team that plays outdoors, God forbid, he could have no roof.
He could have no roof.
Consequently, the Chicago Bears played in an open-air stadium.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think this is the important thing, right? He's going to come with issues. The big thing for an NFL team is, can we fix those mechanical issues, right? Mm-hmm. Do we have the guy that can do it? We've seen a lot of quarterbacks end up in situations like we had in Washington with Dwayne Haskins, right? He got drafted, rest in peace, right? Rest his soul. I don't want to disparage his name, but we had a lame duck coach when he was drafted, and then we got in a coach who clearly had a personal issue with Dwayne Haskins. He was never ever given any sort of guidance, any sort of, here, let's fix these footwork issues. And when he was right, you could see all of the arm talent. He could spin it. He could throw a fucking donut through a battleship. He could hit you in stride. He had a strong arm, right? That's a I mixed two together. He could throw a football through a donut, and he could throw a strawberry through a battleship, which is a Bo Jackson-ism. I love that one. But I mixed those two together.
I knew where you were going.
Right. But with Caleb, it's going to be that, right? Is it going to be a team that's willing to invest the time into fixing these, what seem like they should be very fixable issues? Yeah. It's just a matter of whether or not you're willing to invest the time and the resources into it. So the talent is there, right? There's no questioning.
Yes. You just got to hope that they're not bad habits that are unbreakable. That's really all it is.
Right. Unlike RG3 with fucking not learning how to slide.
Oh, Jesus. Well, he didn't know how to read a defense either. I don't think Caleb Williams has that issue.
Yeah. I think we'll be all right. What other games you got on your radar here?
So I'm going to go away from maybe some of the more obvious ones. Excuse me. I'm going to go to a game that I'm not sure a whole ton of people were tuning into. I know I had it on one of my side screens. I'm going to go out to Wazoo, where Arizona put the smackdown on Washington State. They rushed the ball for 5 touchdowns this weekend. Their quarterback threw for 342 yards. Shout out Noah. FIFA. Noah FIFA. And he, 34, 43, 342 with no touchdowns. But that doesn't matter when you're running the ball at a 4.7 yards per clip pace and you can rush for 5 touchdowns. You could throw no touchdowns for 4 or 5 games and it wouldn't matter.
Right.
Like the way that defense has stood on their head the last couple of weeks and kept this team in very close games against good opponents. They kind of figured out their offense this week. They let the ball through. They let the quarterback throw the ball all over the field and then rush the ball when they got in the red zone. This Arizona team, we've said it for the last 2 weeks that they might be really good. I think they're good.
Yeah, I agree. I had them on a ticket. I had them on our picks here. They made me a believer last week, and they reinforced it this week.
Yeah.
They're fast. I didn't realize how fast they were early in the season when they were struggling. And to be honest, like maybe Delora's injury has been a blessing in disguise because they may have found their quarterback despite him not being the starter to start the season.
Yeah.
This Fatifi or FIFA or however we're pronouncing it.
Fafita, I think.
He can play. Play. And they've got a lot of speed on defense, and that negates a lot of what especially Pac-12 teams are trying to do, going sideline to sideline. They can run it down. So, yeah, Arizona, they might just be a really good team. Yeah, I think Jordan Travis is going to be sort of a gimmick quarterback at the next level until he figures out some of his throwing issues. He's not the best thrower of the football. He can do some things, but he's not Lamar in terms of his playmaking ability, but I think it's going to be an offense that's geared a bit like the Baltimore offense was, especially early in Lamar's career. So I think you're going to look at it as like a team that's going to invest in him. It might even be the Ravens that draft him, right? Because we've seen them do this where they've signed Josh Johnson, they've drafted Hundley from UCLA, like guys, and they had RG3 for a year. Like they've drafted guys that are supposed to be sort of in this same mold as Lamar Jackson. Maybe the Ravens take a chance on Jordan Travis, and we'll see what they can do with him. But not quite the electric runner with the football in his hands.
I'm not sure if Brett remembers. Lamar Jackson won a Heisman and an MVP in the NFL.
Yeah.
There's closing statements, Your Honor. MVP.
Nothing further.
I have nothing further to say.
All right. Any more you want to get into before we tear the Band-Aid off?
Sure. When does Jimbo Fisher get fired? Has it happened yet? Because I don't see what is he owed, like $76 million if he gets fired, something like that. That's his buy. Don't care. I'm not a Texas A&M fan, and I'm certainly not a Tennessee fan. But my God, Jimbo brought in the single greatest recruiting class 2 summers ago, and they are not good, man. They're just not good. They cannot figure out the quarterback situation in College Station. Since what, Johnny Manziel? They had Kyler Murray on campus,
Jimbo.
right? Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Jimbo's supposed to be this guy. He won a national title with Jameis at Florida State. Like, he's supposed to bring in all these big recruits, and he does. And then they fucking leave, and the ones that stay are not good. Yeah. They have who's Max Johnson's dad? Is it Brad Johnson? Yeah, Brad Johnson's kid, legacy quarterback from the NFL, right? Like, obviously that's not everything that goes into it, but like the kid has pedigree.
Mm-hmm. Remember when everybody said Jimbo was the quarterback whisperer too?
Yeah, when Jameis won that freaking Heisman and national title. Like,
where'd that fucking go?
I don't know.
Yeah, I was really surprised last year when the reports came out that A&M didn't have the money in the coffers to fire Jimbo. Like, they were stuck with him for at least last year. And I did see some speculation that like 3 years they were going to be stuck with him because the boosters weren't willing to pay to get out of that deal. If that's the case, it's going to be a rough season and a half here down the stretch of this year and then into next year, because it doesn't seem like there's any hope that it's going to get better.
Yeah,
because they're sort of a bad team.
They're not great.
It's crazy. I think everybody keeps Vegas keeps setting lines because they expect people to bet that money on A&M because they should be good because of the recruiting class last year. I was guilty of it this weekend. I had them. I took the points. I failed hard there. Tennessee made me pay for that. But yeah, A&M is so bad. They've got to figure out a way. All that goddamn oil money in College Station, they should be able to figure it out.
Yeah. I just have like a couple quick shout outs.
Yep.
There's a very famous clip that circulates the internet probably once a year, and it goes, I'm a man, I'm 40.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's been a few years since old Mike Gundy has been 40. But it has not been long since he figured out that football matters to Oklahoma State once again. They're coming off back-to-back wins against Kansas State and ranked Kansas, where the Kansas backup quarterback threw for almost 400 yards. But it didn't matter because them Cowboys have finally figured out that it's time to play ball again, man.
Yeah.
They play those night games in Stillwater that has the darkest sky you will ever see. It is the blackest of nights there in Stillwater.
Yep.
Now, this was, not the same as Bedlam, but Bedlam is always wild. They get it at home again this year. I'm putting an Oklahoma on upset watch in that game, dude.
Okay.
Putting Oklahoma on upset watch.
Hey, big rivalry game in Stillwater. I believe that's going to be an 8 p.m. kickoff.
Probably. It's got to be. The time hasn't been announced yet, but it's got to be a night game.
Yeah.
You can't play Bedlam during the day. You just can't.
You can't. No. That's got to be an 8 p.m. kickoff.
Yeah.
Has to be.
2 more quick shout outs, and then we'll get into next week's games. It is 7:30 p.m. East Coast, and Kentucky is still a basketball school. I don't care.
Got beat by another basketball school.
Yes, man. Stoops came out and said after they lost to Georgia that he needs the boosters to come back and pay more money. Hey, buddy, how about you go across the hall to Coach Cal, who loves to do nothing more than to flaunt how much money his freaking basketball players are making it. What's he up to, like $2 billion now in total contract worth? Yeah. Get some of them brothers down here and freaking hand over some cash.
Yeah, buddy.
Get these boys on the football field paid, and maybe, just maybe, you could be a football school like the rest of us.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, Auburn got beat up. I took the points with Auburn too. Oh,
their offense, Auburn's offense is
awful,
abysmal. Dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing down there in the plains, but it is bad.
Yeah, I went with my gut and thought they'd get up for LSU. They fucking did not.
Yeah.
Won't make that mistake again.
One last shout out before we get to next week's. I promise I'll make it short.
Yeah.
Utah is coming, boys.
Yes, they are.
They scored 34 points this week. Utah is coming.
Yep.
They're going to get Rising back at some point. I don't know when it is. Nobody knows for sure.
Yeah.
Utah's coming.
That defense is the real deal. It travels. They can put it in their suitcase and take it anywhere they fucking want to.
Yep.
And that offense is starting to put it together. Granted, against a bad Cal team, but that offense is starting to put it together. Look out for sure. Yeah, Bowers. That's a big loss for Georgia for sure. I hate to see it.
Yeah.
Well, let's close this week review out with Oregon, Washington, and buddy, did this fucking game deliver?
Yes.
Holy shit. It
God.
even pushed the Vegas line. That's how much this game fucking delivered.
Yep.
It was right on the nose. Washington was favored by 3. They end up winning by a field goal. Talk to me about this game. This was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Penix continues his streak of 300-yard passing games. I think it's been every week this year. This was the Heisman game, right?
Yep.
Bo Nix coming in was top 5, I believe, in Heisman voting. Michael Penix was tied for the lead in Heisman voting.
Yep.
Penix solidified his number 1 spot going to New York, I think, this weekend, right? Like these two teams are obviously 2 of the best teams in the country, and I pray that we get to watch this game again in the Pac-12 title game. Excuse me. But this game, it had everything. It had 4-time conversions. It had Michael Penix holding what looked like his, excuse the pun, his appendix, right? Like, that dude was absolutely battling out there on the field. I thought he was going to have to come out.
Yeah.
And he's doubled over in pain, grabbing his ribs. It's like, bro, just, like, come out for a couple plays. We run the ball. And he said, no. I'm here, and we're throwing the ball down the field. Rome, fuck it. Rome's down there somewhere.
Rome's down there somewhere.
All roads lead to Rome, right? He said, this ball is going to Rome.
Yep.
This game was incredible. I thought that Dan Lanning made a few interesting coaching decisions going forward on 4th downs when they probably didn't have to. But I get it. That's football now. Like, I totally understand, not taking the points at the end of the first half and kind of trying to pin them down there. It was like, well, what are you going to do? You can't really play field position at the end of a half. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
But I get it. I understand. You trust your quarterback. And Bo Nix showed up. Bo Nix, they showed him so many times during that final drive. Obviously, he's the quarterback. He tried to get them down in the scoring position. That man looked like he could play 45 more minutes. Like, not a bead of sweat on his forehead. Nothing was rattling him in that moment. And that is light years away from what we saw the Bo Nix and Auburn.
Yes. Very, very, very much so. He's a different guy in Oregon. Yeah, I like all the points you made. Game was phenomenal. I know I was really hard on Lanning down the stretch, and I know I wrote it in your in a message to you. I also wrote it in another group chat. Like, he earned that loss for Oregon with that decision to go for it there. He didn't learn, obviously, from the week prior with Mario Cristobal making a bonehead mistake as a coach and costing his team the game. You can't go for it on 4th there in that situation. I understand the book. I understand the analytics. I also understand that, like, you can put the game away. You cannot go for it there. Washington had no timeouts.
Yep.
You pooch that motherfucker down there. You run whatever 5-8 seconds, go off the clock with a punt, and you make them go at a minimum 80 yards. If you can get them inside the 20, even better. But at worst, you boot that fucker out of the end zone and you make them go 80 yards, because you cannot give Michael Penix a short field with 20 seconds left. I don't care that there was almost 60 seconds left at that point. Yeah. You can't go for it there. You got an opportunity to just make them go the length of the field. It was an unbelievable performance by Penix, but that one, to me, that's where you can coach your way out of a game, and Dan Lanning did that to me in that game. But it was a gritty, gutty performance from Penix, man. He was nails. He was injured, showed his toughness, showed his accuracy. There were a couple balls in that game that, like, you saw defenders were tracking it. They just couldn't get to it because he was fucking pinpoint, precise with the scalpel in this game. So hats off to Penix. I'm with you. He locked up the Heisman, in my opinion, barring a collapse down the stretch. He locked up the Heisman with this game. This was his Heisman game. There's always one, right, for a Heisman-winning quarterback. This one was his, at least to this point of the season. He's got some opportunities to get some good teams late in season two to continue to make these moments. But right now, for me, it's Penix and everybody else in New York.
Let me toss you a hypothetical.
Yeah.
You're a head coach. You're on the road. Your team is running the ball at 5.1 yards a clip. You're winning by 4 points. You have a 4th and 3. What do? You're on the opponent's 47-yard line.
I punt.
Again, you're running the ball at 5.1 yards a clip.
I punt. They have to score a touchdown. That's the thing to me, right? We're not talking about a 2-point game. We're not talking about a 3-point game that could go to overtime and we've got to win on the road in overtime. We're talking about a touchdown game. I punt. I get it. They were gashing with the run game. It's tough to turn around and put it in the belly of the running back on 4th and 3, though. Do you trust it? Maybe, right? And you got big fucking cojones if you're going to turn around and put it in the belly of the running back on 4th and 3, averaging 7 yards a carry in the game. It's hard to wrap my head around if I'm putting myself in like the seat of a coach to say I'm going to run the ball on 4th and 3. That's a long way to go. It's tough. And I stand by I'm punting. You've got to score a touchdown on me. Yeah, I'm gonna make you go at least 80 yards.
Okay, another hypothetical. Same situation, but you turn the ball over on downs. And then in 2 plays, you give up a touchdown. What do you tell your team at the end of the game?
Sorry.
Hey guys, they went 53 yards in 2 plays, but that's on me.
Yeah.
2 plays.
That's another thing. I'll say this too. I have these conversations sometimes with people who I have a group that like most of the people in the group stand by the statement that if you throw a 50-yard pass and it's intercepted because it was a desperation throw, that's as good as a punt. I'm here to tell you, anybody watching, I'm reminding you in the group chat, that's such a fucking retrospective, I'm going to make an excuse statement. There's no realm of this fucking football world where a turnover by your quarterback is the same as punting the ball to the other team. And I'm going to tell you that a turnover on downs is a fucking gut punch.
Yes.
So I don't know that that's exactly right, but why they were able to gash them for those 53 yards in 2 plays. But I'm going to tell you it was a factor. So I'm going to add that one on top of the decision itself, that turning it over on downs is a gut punch, no matter what level you play at.
Yeah. I agree.
So I understand what you're saying, though. Like, they should be able to make a play. Don't let them score in 2 plays. But it's a gut punch, turning the ball over on downs.
Yeah.
It really is. All right, bud. Let's
not
jump
even
in.
like, sorry, but there wasn't even like incompletions in there. It was just 2 completions back to back.
Yeah.
FedEx was nails on that drive. And then Bo Nix came back and was nails on the next drive. But
yeah. Just couldn't quite get there. Yeah. Couldn't quite get there. It's tough. It was a tough field goal, like college kickers, right?
College kickers, baby.
College kickers. All right, let's jump ahead into week 8 here. I'm gonna save that first one for last.
All
right. So talk to me about a game that jumps out at you here.
Oh man. Well, there's a game on this card that's very near and dear to my heart. I went on a rant earlier about South Carolina's defense. And I told you on this very same podcast 3 weeks ago, that Brady Cook can absolutely spin the ball for Missouri.
Yep.
The fact that this is only a 7-point line in Columbia, Missouri is wild to me. Carolina at this point in time should not be a 7-point underdog to almost anybody, right?
Yep.
Let me give you the stats that I gave you earlier that were incorrect. These are some passing splits for Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler at home completing 83% of his passes for 1,300 yards at 11.2 yards per completion, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. Spencer Rattler on the road completing 60% of his passes for 425 yards, 5.5 yards in a clip, 1-3 touchdown to interception ratio. This game might be ugly.
Oof.
That might be. It's going to pain me to bet against my Gamecocks, but I think that the smart play is to bet on the
You're
Tigers.
Flipping your pick.
I've talked myself out of it. I made these picks. I made these picks before I did more extensive research on this game.
Yeah.
God damn it. It could be really ugly there in Columbia this weekend.
Yeah, I'm sticking with South Carolina. Call it a gut feeling. Call it, I don't know, fucking spidey sense or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that line, that number tells me Vegas knows something, because those numbers that you just said and what we just saw from South Carolina against Florida and what we saw Mizzou do to a Kentucky team that likes to bully people,
Mm-hmm.
Vegas knows something, man. Vegas knows something. I'm not saying money line South Carolina, but I'm saying that something's going on out there in Columbia, and we're looking at a field goal game potentially here. And we already know that Missouri can hit a 61-yard field goal if they need to. Speaking of college kickers, that's the exact opposite of the typical. That's craziness. But yeah, it's spidey sense, whatever it is. That number doesn't feel right. I expected to see like 11 and a half, maybe 12.
Yeah.
So that tells me that Vegas knows something, just based on the fact that Missouri, maybe it's a trap game, right? Because this isn't a rivalry game. This isn't a traditional, it's SEC football, of course, but like Missouri's not a long-standing member of the SEC.
Right.
Missouri and South Carolina don't necessarily have bad blood, right, historically. So maybe it's a little bit of a trap game coming off of Kentucky, and South Carolina surprises a little bit on the road. Gut feeling. I don't have a lot of empirical evidence that I'm going to say like, Rattler's going to fix his issues on the road, because I think that's a real thing, that you can be a good quarterback at home and a bad quarterback on the road. But we'll see. Maybe Beamer breaking his foot and, lighting a fire maybe under his team's ass. Maybe that gets him fired up and some of that talent starts to shine through and they come together. I don't know. Call it a gut feeling, but I'm sticking with South Carolina here with the points. Give me a touchdown and I'll take it.
Can I talk myself off a ledge real quickly?
Yeah.
And this is not necessarily about this specific weekend, but as everyone knows, the greatest college football coach of all time coached at South Carolina for a decade. He's the all-time wins leader at both at Florida and at South Carolina. I'm talking none other than the head ball coach himself, Steve Spurrier. In his first 5 years as a South Carolina head coach, he did not have a 7-win season. So this week, South Carolina Twitter specifically has been, as you can see in my screen here, fire Clayton White, which I agree with. I completely agree. Our offense last year was not good. This year we brought we fired Satterfield and we brought in a new offensive coordinator, Dowell Loggins, an outside hire from the initial Spurrier camp who he brought with him. If we're able to remove our defensive coordinator, bring in an outside hire, probably kind of change the culture on the defensive side of the ball a little bit. I believe in Shane Beamer. I think you believe in Shane Beamer. I like what he's doing there. I'm willing to give him a little bit more time and be patient with his program. But at some point on the field matters.
Yeah.
At some point.
You got to start to produce.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about this game a little bit because I waffled on the line. I didn't waffle on whether I think Michigan's going to win, but 24 points is a lot in a rivalry game. And this is a very heated rivalry. It's obviously their neighbors by, I think it's like 90 miles separate Ann Arbor from East Lansing. The last time, one big memory that sticks out to me is the blocked punt when Michigan started to, like right at the beginning of this run. Michigan was ranked, I believe, 4 or 5 at the time. Michigan State blocks that punt. Yep, absolutely. The surrender cobra. And they block the punt, take it back, knock off Michigan, and ruin that season for them. And it's been a few years now. We've seen Michigan make these runs to the playoffs, but Michigan State could play with some pride here this weekend and keep this thing tight, potentially. No way I think they're going to pull off the upset, but 24 is a big line. Could be tricky. I don't know that I'm going to go out on a limb and say like Sparty could pull off the upset here, but I didn't feel 100% confident laying those 24 points in this game for that reason.
I felt very confident laying the points.
I like your conviction. I like your conviction. You're a stronger willed man than I.
I expect them to cover. They might hit the over by themselves.
Maybe. Michigan State is bad. I will surrender to that, but it's a rivalry game. Could be maybe tricky. Maybe. I did waffle a little bit on that pick. Like 24 is a lot, but
It is a lot.
Michigan should bully him. Bama, Tennessee could be a really big game. This is Bama getting back for last year, right? This was one of their losses last year in Knoxville, and they lost by 2 points in this game.
Yep.
And it was one of their 2 combined point games that they lost by 3 total points that cost them a playoff berth. May have had a stake to say they could have knocked Georgia off last year because they were pretty goddamn good last year. But this feels like a get-back game. I know you took the points with Tennessee. It's 9.5, I believe is what it is. Yep. I'm laying the points. I don't feel great about that because of how they played against Arkansas last week, running away from them and then letting them back in it for whatever reason. Talk to me a little bit about why you ended up taking the points with Tennessee. Do you see a money line win, a big upset, or
no,
is 9.5 too much?
No, not 9.5. That's a lot of points. Mm-hmm. I asked everybody last week on the pod to shut the hell up for a second and listen very closely. And if you hear that sound, that is the roll of the Tide. I still believe that.
Yeah.
I still believe that they could. I think, especially now with Brock Bowers going out, if Alabama secures the SEC West, oh buddy, Atlanta could be exciting.
Yeah.
If you're an Alabama fan, right?
Because Bowers, the timeline is 4 to 6, but I saw reports that said they think it's going to be closer to 6. So he probably won't be ready for the SEC title game. Could be, but he'd be coming right off the injury. If he's back for the SEC title game, could make a big difference.
I don't imagine we see Brock Bowers in a Georgia uniform again.
I don't know that we'll even see him. I agree with you. We may not even see him in the national championship or in the playoff. We may not. You're right.
And I know that's I know that sucks because he's electric.
Yeah.
And we talked about him extensively last week on this show.
Yeah. He's got really big NFL stock to protect though.
Exactly.
Like what round NFL stock to protect.
He has 2 national titles. Yeah. What reason do you have to come back? Like, I don't expect to see him again. However,
I don't either. The timeline just says like if he comes back, it'll be then, right?
Yeah, for sure. But so this game, right? Tennessee's offense. I know we harped on Texas A&M for being not great or whatever. The one thing they can do is play defense, right? Like it's their offense that really gives them more of the issues than anything there in College Station. I believe they have 2 first-round projected guys on that defensive line. Jalen Milroe struggles when he has pressure in his face. He obviously can throw the hell out of the deep ball. Tennessee's secondary, for real. Tennessee's secondary, not phenomenal. Spencer Rattler kind of did whatever he wanted in that game. We just didn't score a whole lot. Yeah. Which, part of the road home thing. Got it. Understood. But Rattler still had himself a game, right? I expect Alabama to be able to run the ball and throw the ball deep. That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
They've established a number 1 receiver on the outside. They're able to run the ball. That offensive line has been gelling all season long. Their big tackle freshman on the left side has been playing incredibly. The other freshman on the other side, the right tackle, I believe, he's also been playing well, but the left tackle has been really, really coming along. And they're huge. They're massive. Both over like 340. Big boys up there.
Fucking 305 or 310 on the offensive line, right? Huge.
Yeah. I like you said, kind of a revenge game for last year. If they cover, it wouldn't shock me. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they win by 10 or 11, right? I just think 9.5 is a lot. It's not a night game in Tuscaloosa, which does impact it when I'm making these picks, right? I like to know the time of kickoff.
Yep. The college environment is different night and day.
Yeah, for sure. Not that Alabama's not going to get up for this game, but it does play a small role, in my opinion.
But later in the day, they get a couple more sauces in them.
Yep, exactly. A couple more sodas, and those kids are all hyped up on Mountain Dew. But I expect, excuse me, if Jalen Milroe does not come under too much fire in this game, I believe that he's going to be able to find holes in that secondary, specifically on the side of the true freshman safety that they play, going away from Kool-Aid McKinstry. I just have to imagine that Tennessee's going to be able to score points. I went with kind of a gut feeling here. 9.5 is a lot. I'm ready to be wrong.
Yeah. Probably not on this. They probably find a reason to kind of keep him and not shake things up. But does this not illustrate to you how bad the Big Ten West actually is? Because this is a realistic scenario.
Mm-hmm.
They might not average 20, and they might win the Big Ten West at 11-1. Like that's realistic right now for
It's
Iowa.
Actually crazy
Because the Big Ten West is so bad. All right, before we get to the game at the Horseshoe, maybe one more quick one if there's one more on your radar, or do you want to just jump right into Penn State, Ohio State?
Yeah, we could talk about. Can you put me back on the screen, please?
Say again. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, sir.
I'm riding, baby. I'm
Yeah,
riding.
buddy.
Pratt is back.
Yeah.
I love what that offense could do when he's under center. He's so mobile for such a large kind of statuesque person, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't look like a mobile quarterback, but he very much so is. I love what Willie Fritz is building down there in New Orleans. They also have some of the sickest, absolutely filthiest jerseys in college football.
They really do.
It's unreal.
That combo they had last week, man. Holy shit.
With the powder blues, man.
Oh my god. With the red and white stripes. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Or green and white stripes.
Green and white, yeah.
That dark green on the fucking powder blue was just fucking sick.
It fires me up, dude.
Yeah.
Fires me up. I love it. I know 20 is a lot of points, but North Texas is not a good team.
No. Not good.
So I'm taking the points there.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, Tulane all the way, baby. All right, let's get into it, man. Ohio State, Penn State. This is the game that I've been saying could separate right now, right? I believe Penn State is a playoff team in my mind, and this is the game they have to win. I've obviously up there, I've got Penn State +4, but I will be going out and saying money line because I've got them as a playoff team. And I think in the Big Ten, someone's going to have to run the table because you're going to beat each other up and then end up potentially with like a 2-loss champion, and that's going to be really tough to get in. But you don't believe in Penn State. Talk to me about Ohio State. Do you – I have to assume you feel like they've kind of figured it out on offense because we've seen Penn State in the way that they can really control the clock, control the trenches on offense with that NFL offensive line and those running backs. Drew Aller had a really big game last week against UMass. It was UMass. Ohio State's got enough firepower here to score with the limited amount of time they're going to have the ball.
Yeah, I believe so. I think I would just blindly bet the under on this game. I don't know what it is. Yeah. It's got to be 45, maybe
46.5. So.
46. Yeah, take the under. This feels like a 21-16 kind of game, right? Something like that.
Yep.
I said it after the Notre Dame win that Ohio State had. This is an older school, right? Post Jim Tressel into the Urban Meyer era kind of Ohio State team where the quarterback is not an All-American. He's not the best player on the field at all times, right? But their defense is phenomenal. They have a big-time playmaker in Marvin Harrison Jr., and they win the trenches in just about every game they play. Now, it helps when Notre Dame has 10 men on the field and you can just run over to left guard. Got it. Understood. Whatever. Cool.
Yeah. Good point.
The most exciting matchup in this game is going to be the Ohio State defensive line versus that Penn State offensive line.
Yep.
It can be a very close game. It could be a 3-point game, right? That wouldn't shock me. If Penn State comes in and covers but loses the game, I'm not shocked. But if you go back, and I forgive me for not having the numbers in front of me. I had them up yesterday, and I forgot to bookmark it. James Franklin is terrible against top 10 teams, and even worse on the road, which is hard to do at Penn State because you have those whiteout games that they typically get their big opponents for. It's like, how in the world do you lose a whiteout game? First off, Happy Valley during a whiteout is unreal, that fan base.
Yep.
But they're going on the road to the Horseshoe, and it's like, man, that is such a tough pace to play. They're playing a really good defense in Ohio State. I just don't know how they score. Like, I gave you those stats after the Iowa game for Drew Aller, how his passing attempt yardage, there we go, had gone down each of the first 3 weeks. Now it has gone back up, but they played Northwestern and UMass. Like, if your passing attempt yardage doesn't go up, then I don't know what you're doing. But they haven't played a good defense in 3 weeks since that Iowa game, where it was low. So it was like 3.8 yards per attempt. Like I don't know that we hyped up Drew Aller so much coming into the season. I'm not sure that he's living up to the hype that we gave him.
Yeah, I don't disagree. He's 2-17 against top 10 teams, and I believe I just saw it. He's like 0-10 on the road or something. 1-10 on the road. It's not good. It's not good. I agree. I just still believe in this Penn State team as being a complete team. I love the way they can dominate on both sides of the ball, and that's going to be the big contest, right? Because you mentioned Ohio State's been doing similar things to their opponents as well in the trenches. I love that Penn State offensive line, and I love their ability to just sap possessions from Ohio State, keep Marvin Harrison Jr. off the field, and Penn State's got a pretty goddamn good secondary. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a fucking mutant. I get it. But they've got a pretty damn good secondary. So that's going to be a really fun matchup to watch. Is McCord going to be able to find his secondary receivers potentially if Penn State really focuses on taking Marvin Harrison Jr. out of the game, a la Bill Belichick, right?
Right.
That's what he always fucking does. If they bracket cover him, is McCord going to be able to spread it around? We haven't really seen that from him this year, but he hasn't really had to because, again, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a mutant. But I really like Penn State. I really like that they got a quarterback that can make plays. He's not been lighting the world on fire, but I also think that has a lot to do with how much they like their offensive line and their running backs. So I have to stick by it because I picked them as a playoff team. I'm going to stick with it. But as my byline down here says, my body is ready. Shout out Tom Wilson too. You showed your shirt.
Yeah, Tommy.
Shout out Tom Wilson, big boy.
Fight on night one.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's hit the totem real quick before we get out of here for the folks. We had a little bit of a shakeup this week. Talk to me about your totem. You didn't have movement in your top 4, but or yes, you did. I'm sorry. Ohio State fell out of the top 4. Washington moved up into the top 4. Florida State moved up 1. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, top 2 are self-explanatory. I've had them there all year long. They haven't moved. I haven't touched them. Bowers going down kind of it takes some air out of the balloon for me, but I have to leave them there. They've been there all year. I can't take them out.
22 in a row, I think they're on right now.
Yeah, I can't take them out until they lose, man. Yeah. Washington slides in. Washington probably could be the best team in the country, right? It wouldn't shock me if at the end of the year they're holding the trophy. They have the best win of the season. They have a better win than does Florida State, but Florida State has 2 wins combined that are better than Washington's 1, right? The Florida State win over LSU, and then the Florida State going on the road to Clemson, who's still a good program. They're not great, but whatever. Texas, I still believe, is one of the best teams in the country. They played a terrible game a terrible first half, rather, against Oklahoma. I don't think Oklahoma is better than them. I'm excited to watch them play again in the Big 12 championship game. Yeah. I will be betting on Texas in that game. I promise you that. But yeah, those are the teams that I see as the best teams right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I shook things up a little. Washington moves up over Oklahoma. I keep Oklahoma in the top 4 despite the bye week. And I didn't have any change in terms of a new team in, new team out. But I've got my eye on this weekend because I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do with these Big Ten teams if Ohio State does knock off Penn State.
Yep.
Obviously, I've got to move them out. Am I gonna slot Michigan in it too and maybe disrespect Penn State or Ohio State a little bit? I don't know. I've been disrespecting Michigan all fucking year anyway. So
yes, you have.
Double down, I guess. But but I move Washington.
Fuck the Big Ten.
Yeah, right. Penn State or nobody, damn it. But I moved Washington up, obviously, because of the quality of the win. I had them at 4 last week. Oklahoma didn't play. They had a bye this week. So, yeah, that for me, I'm with you, though. Washington, I would not be surprised at all if at the end of the year they're holding up the crystal football for the national championship because that team, that's a high-octane offense, and they're really tough to beat.
Yeah.
All right, bud, what do you got for me? Closing thoughts here.
So when we first announced the 12-team playoff, I was very much against it, right? I don't love it. I thought 6 was the number. You have a 3-3. You even give top 2 seeds a bye. I still kind of think that 6 is the number. But damn, if there was ever a year to have a 12-team playoff, oh my god,
This would be beautiful, dude.
this is the year, man.
Yeah.
Can we just have one? Like, give it a trial run,
Yeah,
and
right.
see how we feel about it. Like, again, I still think 6 is the number. I think that's the number I'm gonna kind of die with. Give me 6. But
I always thought 8 was eventually going to be the sweet spot. 6 is good. I don't have any complaints about 6, right? But 8 I always kind of thought was going to be the magic number because I had like a formula, right? You had your Power 5, you had your group of 5, right? The best ranked, highest ranked group of 5. And then you had 2 at-larges that the committee could say, like, okay, this team didn't win a championship in their conference, but they are clearly one of the best teams in the country, right? So give them a little leeway on 2 teams. I always kind of thought 8 would be maybe the sweet spot, but 6, I could get down with 6, and we can work out the machinations of that. But 12 is going to be exciting because I do think that there are going to be some years when a team at 10, 11, 12 just like gets hot and knocks off some teams that we don't expect. And that isn't that the most exciting thing about March Madness too, right?
Yes.
I love it, man. Unless you're Duke and you get knocked off by Lehigh, but
all right, dude. The Gamecocks are terrible. You're bringing up bad memories from March Madness.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You want to talk about Coach K losing to North Carolina twice to close out his career? Anything else you want to talk about? Or Washington taking their draft this year? How about that, huh?
God, fucking Washington.
17 minutes of ball possession and they freaking win the game? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Hashtag fire Ron.
My body can only handle so much, dude.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, bud. Hey, good episode. I apologize for the jab there at the end.
Sorry, you're a Syracuse fan. So.
Yeah. We suffer plenty. Anyway, for Bentley and all the rest of us here at Backyard Sports, this has been another episode of Tailgate Trash Talk. We are out.